Inside Ag on KTVB is sponsored by the Idaho Farm Bureau Federation, empowering Idaho agriculture.
Livestock doesn't have to be limited to corrals. For a recent conservation project, Idaho Fish and Game sent a herd of sheep just out into the wild.
Our Cooper Morgan caught up with a wildlife manager after he made the trip into the Owyhee Canyon lands. Coop, why do they want to keep a wild herd out there?
Well, Morgan, the herd numbers dropped significantly within the last 2 years. Now, Fish and Game wants to maintain the animals because of its history on the rangelands. For hunters, the chance to draw a California bighorn tag is rare in Idaho. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and it is for Ryan Walrath, too.
But when you look at your 20 to 30-year career in an agency, those kind of opportunities, probably like once-in-a-lifetime career like opportunities.
For him, wildlife is more than a line on a resume. As the regional wildlife manager for Idaho Fish and Game's Southwest region, he looks over it all. But one animal has weighed on him for years: California bighorn sheep.
Over the years, we've been doing population surveys from the air, and over time, it's been a slow decline in the total animals that we've been counting when we conduct those surveys.
A native subspecies that roamed these canyons for generations before the mining boom of the late 1800s brought over hunting, disease, and habitat pressure, factors that wiped these sheep out in Owyhee County in the early 1900s. Then the sheep were reintroduced by Idaho Fish and Game in the 1960s and 1980s. At the sheep's peak, more than 360 sheep roamed the canyon lands. Now the number is hovering near 100, a level that Walrath says puts the animal's future in question.
Once we get to about 100 animals in a population is where we start questioning whether we should or should not be hunting that population.
Walrath knew he and his team had to do something to preserve this historic animal. The solution? Moving the animals from Oregon to Idaho, a delicate process that requires planning, raising money for moving, and coordinating how they'll move the sheep. It still comes with risk.
They're going into a brand new area, right? It'd be like taking somebody and putting you into a forest when you were in the dark and then turn on the lights and you're like in a new area, right? You're pretty vulnerable.
Walrath and his team led the capture of the sheep in Oregon, where a helicopter crew threw nets over the animals, wrangling them one at a time.
So that's where we went in early January of this year, 2026, and actually brought over 30 bighorn sheep. 25 of those were ewes, 5 were rams.
After a 15-hour trip in trailers and a bumpy road into the canyon lands, Walrath stood by as the trailer doors opened and the sheep bolted into their new environment. A once-in-a-career moment.
And then all the planning and finding the grants and funding to do some of these projects to get to that place. And when you actually open the door, yeah, it's pretty emotional watching all of your fruits of your labor actually go to work.
While much of the grazing land here has shifted to cattle over the years, bighorn sheep still play a critical role in the ecosystem. And for Walrath, he was there for every step.
And then I also was able to go and actually help with processing in Oregon on the first day, with the first day of capture, and then was here on both days at the release site to actually put the sheep on the ground.
Now the hope is simple: more lambs, a stronger herd, and the cementing of an animal essential to Idaho's wilderness.
They are just part of those canyon lands. We think they should be there.
Now, Idaho Fish and Game can actually track those sheep with collar GPS systems, and they'll go back in and do another survey. And they say they hope to find new lambs in the future. Walrath also says the next steps are to do some predator management to give these sheep a better chance to thrive, guys.
Man, really cool. How majestic was it to see those bighorns out there?
So beautiful.
Cool. Thanks, Cooper.